The night Daniel crossed the cemetery was the night his lonely life ended and something unseen chose him. It was almost midnight in Paris when he took the shortcut through Montparnasse Cemetery, the same path students avoided. But Daniel was used to walking alone. In college, he was the quiet boy, the shy literature student no one noticed unless they wanted to laugh at him. He had no real friends. No messages waiting on his phone. No one who cared if he disappeared. That night, the wind felt strangely warm between the graves, and just as he reached the center path, his vision spun violently as if the world tilted beneath his feet. A whisper brushed against his ear, soft and feminine, almost relieved. Finally, his heart pounded. He tried to move, but his legs failed him. For a second, he saw a shadow standing near an old grave, long hair flowing unnaturally, golden eyes watching him not with cruelty but with deep, aching curiosity. Then darkness swallowed him. When he opened his eyes, white hospital lights burned above him. Doctors said he collapsed from shock, that someone had called an ambulance, but no one could explain who found him. From that night onward, Daniel felt different, warmer, safer, as if invisible arms wrapped around him while he slept. He did not know that a lonely witch, who had watched humans for centuries without feeling anything, had felt her silent heart beat for the first time when she saw him fall. After the hospital discharged him, Daniel returned to his small apartment near the university, expecting life to feel the same. But something subtle had shifted around him. The air in his room felt warmer than the cold Paris winter outside, and that night, for the first time in years, he slept without anxiety pressing on his chest. He dreamed of soft golden light and the faint scent of lavender. The next morning, something impossible happened. His wallet, usually empty, was filled with crisp euro notes. He froze, counting them twice, convinced he was hallucinating, but the money was real. Confused and frightened, he told himself it must be some forgotten scholarship payment. At college, the usual group of boys tried to mock him in the hallway, whispering insults and blocking his path. But before they could touch him, the fire alarm suddenly exploded into sound above their heads, sprinklers activating only over them, soaking them completely while Daniel stood untouched. Students laughed, but for the first time, not at him. That evening, when he returned home, shaken, he whispered into the quiet room, half joking, half hopeful. "If someone is there, thank you." The curtains moved, though the windows were closed. A gentle warmth brushed his cheek like invisible fingers. That night, as he slept, unseen arms wrapped around him protectively, and across the room, in the faint reflection of the mirror, a beautiful shadow watched him with devotion growing deeper and more dangerous. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel slowly stopped questioning the miracles that followed him like a silent guardian. Whenever he needed something, it appeared extra cash in his drawer before tuition deadlines. Notes for exams lying neatly on his desk. Even a lost book returned to his backpack without explanation. At first, he tried to resist the comfort, but loneliness makes acceptance easy. He began speaking softly into the empty air at night, embarrassed by his own hope. "I wish tomorrow would be easier." The next day, his presentation partner suddenly fell sick, forcing the professor to postpone the assignment. "I wish they would leave me alone." The boys who bullied him were suspended after security footage mysteriously showed them vandalizing property. They swore they never touched. Daniel felt protected, but also watched. Sometimes, when he lay in bed, he sensed someone lying beside him, the mattress dipping gently, warmth spreading across his back. It was not frightening, it was tender. One evening, standing before the mirror, he whispered, "Who are you?" For a second, the lights flickered, and behind his reflection, he saw her again clearer this time. A beautiful young woman with pale skin, long dark hair, and golden eyes filled with longing. She did not smile. She looked afraid. Afraid he might reject her. Daniel's heart raced. Yet instead of terror, he felt something unexpected connection. And somewhere beyond the veil of the unseen world, the witch realized he was beginning to feel her presence, and love, once awakened, could no longer remain hidden forever. After that night, Daniel was no longer certain where imagination ended and reality began. He started leaving space beside him on the bed intentionally, whispering softly before sleep as if speaking to someone sitting in the dark. "You don't have to hide," he murmured one evening, his voice trembling but sincere. The room grew warmer instantly, the air heavy with the faint scent of lavender again. At college, his life continued improving. An unnatural ways professors praised his work unexpectedly. Opportunities opened without effort, and the students who once mocked him now avoided his gaze as if unsettled by something they could not see. But with every blessing came something darker. One of the boys who had bullied him cornered him outside the campus, furious and humiliated. Before Daniel could react, the boy was violently thrown backward by an invisible force, crashing into a parked car. No one touched him. People screamed. Daniel stood frozen, realizing the protection around him was not gentle anymore. That night, he faced the mirror again, heart pounding. "Don't hurt anyone because of me," he pleaded. The lights dimmed slowly, and then, for the first time, she stepped out from the reflection. Not as a shadow but as a real, breathtakingly beautiful girl standing in his room. Her golden eyes shimmered with emotion, and though her presence carried ancient power, her expression was fragile. "I would burn the world for you," she whispered softly. Daniel felt fear, but also something deeper, love beginning to answer her devotion. Daniel could barely breathe as she stood before him. No longer a shadow, no longer a whisper, but real, her presence filling the room with warmth and quiet power. Yet her golden eyes held something painfully human. Fear of losing him. "You're the one from the cemetery," he said softly, and she nodded, stepping closer as if afraid he might vanish. She told him she had watched humans for centuries without feeling anything, unseen and untouched by time. But the moment he collapsed beneath the cold Paris sky, something inside her awakened. His loneliness had called to her own. Daniel's heart pounded not with terror now, but with recognition. For the first time in his life, someone had chosen him. "You saved me," he whispered. Her fingers hovered near his face, hesitant, almost shy. "You saved me first," she replied. The room seemed to fade as he reached for her hand. It was warm, real. Outside, the wind rose violently, as if the world itself resisted what was happening. Ancient rules were breaking. A witch was never meant to love a human, but she had already crossed that line the night she whispered, finally, even if loving him meant losing her immortality. The moment their hands touched, a surge of ancient energy pulsed through the room, rattling the windows and dimming the city lights outside as if Paris itself felt the shift in fate. She pulled back slightly, fear flickering across her golden eyes. "There are laws," she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. "Witches are bound to silence, to shadows. Loving a human breaks the oldest oath." Daniel stepped closer instead of away. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of choice. That night, she stayed, sitting beside him as he told her about his childhood. When he fell asleep, she traced the air above his forehead. But far beyond the apartment walls, something stirred in the darkness. Other forces who felt the fracture of ancient rules. Shadows gathered at the edge of the unseen world, drawn by the forbidden bond forming in a small Paris room. And as she held him close, she realized loving him would not only cost her immortality, it might start a war she could not stop. The days that followed felt almost normal, dangerously normal, as if the world was pretending nothing forbidden had begun. Daniel walked through campus with a quiet confidence he had never known, and for once people looked at him differently, not with mockery, but with uncertainty. She stayed close, sometimes visible only to him, sometimes fading into air when others approached. At night, she told him stories of centuries past, of cathedrals rising and kingdoms burning, her voice soft, yet carrying the weight of time. But the shadows outside were growing restless. One evening, as Daniel left the library, the streetlights above him flickered violently, and the air turned cold enough to steal his breath. He felt it instantly. This presence was not hers. From the end of the street, a tall figure formed out of darkness, its shape shifting like smoke. "It does not belong to you," a hollow voice echoed, though no mouth moved. Daniel stumbled back, fear slicing through his chest. Before the shadow could reach him, golden light exploded between them. She appeared in front of him, eyes blazing brighter than before. The ground cracked beneath her feet as ancient symbols burned briefly into the pavement. "He chose me," she said firmly, her voice no longer soft but commanding. The shadow recoiled, but not defeated, only warning. As it dissolved into the night, she turned to Daniel, and for the first time he saw worry instead of confidence. Loving him had made her vulnerable. and now others knew. After that night, nothing felt safe anymore. Daniel tried to act normal, attending lectures and sitting quietly in class, but he could feel eyes on him even when no one was looking. The air around him would suddenly grow heavy, shadows stretching longer than they should. She stayed closer than ever, her presence almost constantly visible now, as if hiding was no longer possible. They felt it, she admitted softly one evening as they stood near his apartment window overlooking the Paris skyline. The bond. Daniel swallowed. Who are they? She hesitated, and for the first time he saw not power, but fear. Others like me, but without hearts. She explained that witches who abandoned emotion lived in the deeper veil, feeding on balance and silence. Love disrupted that balance. Love created weakness, and weakness invited punishment. As if summoned by her words, the lights in the apartment shattered at once, glass exploding outward though no wind touched them. A violent pressure forced Daniel to his knees. Dark whispers filled the room, overlapping voices chanting in a language older than the city itself. She dropped beside him, wrapping her arms around him as golden light surrounded them like a shield. Stay with me, she begged, no longer immortal and distant, but terrified of losing him. Daniel clung to her, realizing this was no longer just protection, it was war creeping closer, and he was at the center of it. The whispers stopped as suddenly as they had begun, leaving the apartment in shattered silence. Glass scattered like frozen rain across the floor. Daniel's ears rang, his body trembling, but she was still holding him, her golden light slowly fading into a softer glow. They're testing us, she said quietly, helping him to his feet. Outside, Paris looked normal again, cars moving. Distant sirens, unaware that something ancient had just pressed against reality. Daniel looked at the broken windows, and then at her. If they want me, he said, voice unsteady but determined, then I won't hide behind you. The words hurt her more than the attack. For centuries she had been untouchable, powerful beyond fear. Yet loving him meant watching him stand in danger because of her. That night, she revealed more truth than ever before. If the High Veil decided he was a threat to balance, they would erase him, not kill, but unmock, as if he had never existed. No memories, no records, no trace. Daniel felt cold at the thought of becoming nothing. Then we fight, he whispered. She touched his face gently, sadness filling her eyes. You are human, Daniel. You are not made for war. He gave a faint smile. Maybe not, but I'm tired of being powerless. And for the first time, the witch realized she hadn't just chosen him, he was choosing her too, and that choice would shake worlds. From that night onward, Daniel began noticing the small miracles that had always been her doing, books appearing exactly when he needed them. Letters he never wrote arriving in his mailbox. Coins falling into his pocket when he was short. But now he saw patterns he had never understood before. The way shadows seemed to twist to follow him. The air itself bending when danger approached. One evening, returning from a late lecture, he felt a cold brush at his neck, and before he could spin around, she appeared at his side. Golden light spilling from her form. You're thinking too much, she whispered, eyes flashing. Daniel laughed softly, realizing he wasn't scared anymore. Fear had become their bond. Every day she taught him to navigate the unseen dangers that his affection for her now attracted. And he began to realize, slowly, that he was not just loved, he was being prepared. Every incident, every miracle, every shadowed warning was training him, molding him into someone capable of surviving a world where love and danger could coexist. That night, as he lay in bed, he whispered into the empty room, I want to be ready, and felt her warmth press closer. A silent promise that she would never leave, no matter what forces threatened them. As weeks passed, Daniel's life became a strange blend of normalcy and the impossible. Classes, assignments, and the lonely hum of the city mixed with golden light that appeared when he least expected it. Shadows that bent to his favor, and whispers that guided his decisions. He began to notice small, intimate gestures she made. A book placed on his desk with a note saying, You'll need this. A warm cup of tea waiting when he studied late. Even the faint scent of lavender when he woke in the morning, lingering like a memory he couldn't forget. One evening, as he walked home through the narrow, cobbled streets, he heard voices laughing cruelly behind him. Before he could turn, a strong wind threw one man backward, his umbrella snapping in half. while Daniel remained untouched. Fear was no longer a stranger. He realized that loving her meant being drawn into dangers he could not see. Dangers that were older than Paris itself. That night, lying in bed, he finally admitted aloud what he had felt for weeks. "I think I love you." She appeared silently beside him. No words, only eyes filled with a mixture of relief, joy, and fear. Her hand found his, warm and steady. For the first time, Daniel understood the true weight of love between a mortal and a witch. Beauty, protection, danger, and eternity intertwined in a single heartbeat. As their bond deepened, Daniel began to notice strange changes in himself. His thoughts seemed sharper, his reflexes faster, and sometimes he could sense danger before it arrived. At first he dismissed it as confidence, but one evening walking home through the misty Paris streets, he narrowly avoided a falling sign that could have crushed him. The moment his hand brushed the cold metal, he realized someone, or something, was watching over him constantly. She appeared beside him, golden light flickering like a heartbeat. "You're becoming aware," she whispered, her voice a mix of pride and worry. "Love has awakened something in you, something that is not entirely human." Daniel's heart raced not from fear, but from awe. He could feel his body thrumming with energy he had never known. At the same time, he sensed the unseen world closing in, shadows growing thicker around corners, whispers sharper, the air colder. "Are they coming for me?" he asked, voice tight. She shook her head. "Not yet. But they will. They will test every choice we make, and the stronger your heart grows, the more dangerous the path becomes." Daniel swallowed hard, but he felt something else rising too. Courage, because for the first time, he realized that with her beside him, love itself had become a weapon and he was ready to wield it. The nights in Paris grew darker, not from the city lights, but from the presence that now lurked just beyond human perception. Daniel felt it in the chill of the wind, in the shadows that moved too quickly for natural explanation. One evening, as he returned from the library, he saw figures at the edge of the alley tall, thin, their eyes black voids that seemed to pierce him. His first instinct was to run, but her hand on his shoulder froze him. "Breathe," she whispered, her golden light pushing back the encroaching darkness. "They are testing you, testing us." The figures advanced, whispering ancient words that scraped against his mind. Daniel felt panic rising, but instead of fleeing, he focused on her presence, drawing courage from the warmth of her energy. A sudden pulse of golden light erupted from her, scattering the shadows like ash in the wind. The figures screeched and recoiled, dissolving slowly into the night. Daniel looked at her, eyes wide. "I've never seen anything like that," he said. She smiled faintly, exhaustion hidden beneath her beauty. "And you never will, unless you continue to choose me. Every time you choose love over fear, the bond grows stronger. And every bond they see is a threat they cannot ignore." That night, as he lay in bed, he realized that their love was no longer just protection, it was rebellion, and the unseen world had taken notice. The following weeks tested Daniel in ways he had never imagined. Every step outside became a game of instinct. He could feel the unseen presence watching, waiting for the smallest mistake. She stayed close, her golden light a constant reassurance, but even she could not eliminate the danger completely. One evening, as Daniel crossed the bridge over the Seine, he felt the air thicken, shadows stretching unnaturally long across the cobblestones. The same figures from the alley appeared, circling silently, their black void eyes fixed on him. His heart raced, yet this time he didn't panic. She appeared behind him, hand on his shoulder, whispering, "Trust the bond. It's stronger than they know." A sudden surge of warmth ran through him. As he realized she had woven a protective thread into his very being, every heartbeat now pulsed with her presence. The shadows lunged, and the golden light flared, splitting them apart. One of the figures screamed, a sound that tore at reality itself, before dissolving into nothing. Daniel stood, trembling, but alive. She looked at him with pride and a hint of worry. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "Every day will test us more, but as long as we choose each other, nothing can break the bond. Not them, not time, not the world itself." For the first time, Daniel understood the magnitude of what they shared. Love as rebellion, love as amour, Love as power that even the oldest forces could not fully touch. As Paris slept under a thin veil of fog, Daniel and the witch sat together in his small apartment, the city lights barely reaching them. The golden glow surrounding her seemed to hum with energy, and he could feel it resonating with his own heartbeat. Daniel smiled faintly. "Not everything is yours to control." He reached for her hand. "Then I'll face them, as long as you're with me." The night seemed to respond. For the first time, Daniel understood that love had changed the rules. It was no longer just protection, no longer just rebellion. It was power. And in that quiet apartment, two hearts intertwined, he realized that together they could face anything. Shadow, danger, outside, unseen. The darkness stirred, but inside, golden light prevailed. A promise that their bond, forged in secrecy and strengthened by choice, could not be broken. Daniel found himself walking the fine line between human and something more alert. To the unseen, attuned to the slightest flicker of shadow. Immortality did not shield her from the cost of love. One afternoon, while studying in the library, he noticed a sudden chill sweep through the room. Books trembled on the shelves, whispers barely audible, and shadows pooled unnaturally in the corners. "They've found us," she said quietly, eyes locking with his. "The veil has seen our bond." He nodded, feeling an unfamiliar resolve settle into his chest. Then we faced them together. Said 10 figures at the edge of perception. Black-eyed, cold, ancient. But Daniel no longer trembled. He felt her pulse in his own, their love radiating outward, pushing the shadows back. He realized that their love was now a force that neither the veil nor time itself could contain. A golden thread binding them against the oldest darkness in existence. That night, Daniel dreamt of a city he had never seen. Streets twisting impossibly, skies painted in dark crimson, and shadows moving with intent. He woke with a start, breath ragged only to feel her hand on his arm, warm and grounding. "It's the veil," she said softly, her golden hair catching the moonlight through the window. "They've begun to reach into your mind, testing the bond in ways they cannot in the real world." Daniel shivered, realizing the truth. Their connection was no longer private. Every emotion, every heartbeat, every whisper of love was visible to ancient eyes that had never understood human attachment. He swallowed hard, gripping her hand. "Then let them see," he said, determination threading through his fear. "Let them understand that love cannot be broken by rules or fear." She looked at him, astonished at his courage, then leaned close, whispering, "Together, we are unstoppable, but the cost may be greater than either of us can imagine." Outside, Paris remained quiet, oblivious to the invisible war stirring. Inside, two hearts beat in synchrony. Golden light weaving around them like a shield. And Daniel realized with a mix of exhilaration and dread that their love was now not only their sanctuary, it was their rebellion against everything the world had taught them about fear, power, and immortality. The following morning, Daniel woke to the faint scent of her magic lingering in the air, a golden warmth curling around him even before his eyes opened. He could feel the shift in the city's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. The shadows moved differently, as if hesitant, as if respecting the bond he now shared with her. She was already awake, perched at the edge of his bed, eyes gleaming with both love and worry. "They are gathering," she whispered, tracing a finger along the curve of his jaw. The veil senses that the balance is breaking. "Every act of love strengthens our rebellion." Daniel nodded, understanding the weight of what she said. He could no longer live blindly. Every choice, every heartbeat, carried consequence. Outside, the city buzzed with ordinary life, unaware of the invisible war hovering at its edges. Yet inside, in their sanctuary of light, Daniel and the witch prepared. Together, they would face what was coming. Together, they would defy the rules that had governed the world for centuries. And as he reached for her hand, feeling the power and warmth that pulsed through her, he realized this love, forbidden and dangerous, was no longer just theirs. It was a force that would challenge the very foundation of existence itself. The night came heavy, thick with fog and whispers from the unseen world. Daniel and the witch stood atop the rooftop of his apartment building, the city sprawling below them like a living labyrinth. "They are coming," she said, golden eyes scanning the horizon. The veil cannot ignore us any longer. Daniel swallowed hard, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline mixed with awe. Every shadow seemed to twist toward them. Every wind gust carried an echo of ancient power. But he no longer felt helpless. His heartbeat synced with hers. Every pulse a shield, every breath a declaration of defiance. She reached for him, entwining their hands, and the golden light around them flared, pushing back the darkness inch by inch. Figures began to emerge from the fog toll, faceless, ancient beings whose eyes burned with silent fury. But as they approached, Tay recoiled, sensing the bond that could not be broken. Daniel looked at her, determination etched into his features. No matter what comes, we face it together, he said. She nodded, lips barely brushing his ear, whispering, "Together, we are unstoppable." And in that moment, as the city slept unaware, love itself became their weapon, their shield, and their rebellion against the forces that had ruled unseen for centuries. The final night arrived, heavy with anticipation and the electric tension of unseen forces. Daniel and the witch stood together in the heart of the city, atop the tallest tower, golden light radiating from her, blending with the moonlight to form a shield around them. Below, the streets were silent, but above, shadows twisted, figures emerging from every corner of the unseen world, their eyes black voids of judgment. Daniel gripped her hand tightly, feeling her pulse merged with his own, every heartbeat a declaration. They would not be broken. The veil moved closer, testing, probing, seeking the smallest flaw. But every attack met with the power of their bond. Daniel felt energy surge through him, not just his own but hers, to a force of love, defiance, an unwavering connection. "We choose each other," he whispered, voice steady, eyes locked on hers. "No power can take that from us." She smiled, tears glistening like starlight, and for the first time, they allowed themselves to step forward together into the light. The shadows recoiled, screaming silently as the golden aura expanded, swallowing fear and threat. In that moment, the world shifted. The veil, ancient and relentless, could do nothing against the force of true love. Daniel realized with a smile that their story was no longer just survival, it was triumph against darkness, against fear, against time. Itself their hearts had conquered, proving that love, pure and fearless, was the most powerful force of all. And as Paris slept below, oblivious to the battle that had raged above, two souls stood victorious, entwined forever, golden light wrapping them in eternity.